Hey guys, welcome back. We're on our week 3, reading our book, My Side of the Mountain. I will say, please, please, please make sure you watch the whole video before you take the quiz. I am shortening down the pages. We're only reading like 11 pages. Please pay attention. Rewatch the video if you don't know on the quiz. If you forget, go back and rewatch the video. It shouldn't be that long. That being said, remember about the book. The boy is living in the woods in that tree. He was going to start clearing out his tree with fire. Okay, and we're picking up on page 35. If you have figured out your Bookshare, please follow along on Bookshare. You log in now with Hello ID. I posted the directions on our Google Classroom. Please try to figure that out. Follow along with the words as I read. Okay, page 35, in which I meet my own kind and have a terrible time getting away. 5 notches into June. Remember, he's keeping track of time by doing those notches on the log. So 5 notches would be 5 days because he does 1 notch each day. My house was done. I could stand in it, lie down in it, and there was room left over for a stump to sit on. On warm evenings, I'd lie on my stomach and look out the door, listen to the frogs and nighthawks, and hope it would storm so that I could crawl into my tree and be dry. I'd gotten soaked during a couple of May downpours, and now that my house was done, I wanted the chance to sit in my hemlock and watch a cloudburst wet everything but me. The opportunity didn't come for a long time. It was dry. And I thought that this would be a good place to share the screen here. I made a uh, slideshow. Let me find it. I made a slideshow here. You present. Okay, so these are the pages we're reading. So this is a nighthawk. You heard that he wanted to sit there and listen to the nighthawk. So I like to do some research and learn. The nighthawk's kind of a funny looking bird, and whenever they say sounds, I like to listen to what they hear like. So let's. They come out at night. That's one of the sounds. Another sound. That's so they can be pretty loud. So as he's sitting there trying to sleep, that's what he's listening to there, that nighthawk. Okay. One morning I was at the edge of my meadow. I had cut down a small ash tree and was chopping it into lengths of about 18 inches. This was the beginning of my bed. So he decides that he needs to make a bed, help keep them off the ground and keep them dry. It'll also help them stay warm. I was planning to work on after supper every night. With the golden summer upon me, food was much easier to get. And I actually had several hours of free time after supper in which to do things. I'd been eating frogs' legs, turtles, and best of all, an occasional rabbit. My snares and traps were set now. Furthermore, I had a good supply of cattail roots I had dug in the marsh. And these are cattails. So I guess he's eating the roots of these. I'm sure you guys have seen these around ponds. But I've also heard people eat this part. But apparently he's digging out the roots too. They kind of look like hot dogs on a stick. If you ever eat cattails, be sure to cook them well. Otherwise, the fibers are tough and they take more chewing to get the starchy food from them than they are worth. However, they taste just like potatoes after you've been eating them a couple of weeks, and to my way of thinking, are extremely good. So apparently, the roots taste like potatoes. Well, anyways, that summer morning when I was gathering material for bed, I was singing and chopping and playing a game with a raccoon. Have you guys ever wanted to play with a cute little raccoon? I'd come to know he had just crawled in a hollow tree and had gone to bed for the day when I came to the meadow. From time to time, I'd tap on his tree with my axe. He would hang his sleepy head out, snarl at me, close his eyes, and slide out of sight. The third time did this, I knew something was happening in the forest. Instead of closing my eyes, Instead of closing his eyes, he pricked up his ears and his face became drawn and tense. His eyes were focused on something down the mountain. I stood up and looked, and I did not see anything. I squatted down and went back to work. The raccoon drove out of sight. And there's actually a picture in this book. These are snares. They're used for trapping little animals. That's different types of snares. And our journal on Wednesday might be about snares. I think that might be a good journal. Now, what's got you all excited? I said, and tried once more to see what he had seen. I finished the post of my bed and was looking around for a bigger ash to fell and make slats for the springs when I nearly jumped out of my shoes. And, this is not probably how big his bed is, but this is kind of the idea. He's making this bed frame, and the slats are the things that go across here, which this bed doesn't have any slats. But I just imagine him making this bed frame that looks similar to this one. Now, what are you doing here all alone? It was a human voice. Swung around and stood face to face with a little old lady in a pale blue sunbonnet and a loose brown dress. Oh gosh, I said, don't scare me like that. Say one word at a time until I get used to a human voice. I must have looked frightened because she chuckled, smoothed down the front of her dress, and whispered, Are you lost? Oh, no, ma'am, I stuttered. Then a little fellow like you should not be all alone up here on this haunted mountain. Haunted, said I. Yes, indeed. There's an old story that says there are little men up here who play ninepins right down in that gorge in the twilight. And ninepins is kind of like bowling, guys. It's more like duck bowling. If you've ever been duck bowling, where you have like a smaller bowling ball type deal. She peered at me. Are you one of them? Oh, no, 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 I said. I read the story. It's just make believe. I laughed, and she puckered her forehead. Well, come on, she said. Make some use of yourself and help me fill this basket with strawberries. I hesitated. She meant my strawberry supply. Now get on with you. A boy your age should be doing something worthwhile instead of playing mumblet pegs with sticks. Come on, young man. She jogged me out into the meadow. Okay, and guys, wild strawberries are different than regular strawberries. This is a wild strawberry. They're quite a bit smaller, and they have a lot more seeds than the strawberries that you would get from your garden or your own strawberry patch. We were quite a while before we said any more. Frankly, I was wondering how to save my precious, precious strawberries. And I may say I picked slowly. Every time I dropped one in her basket, I thought how good it would taste. Where do you live? I jumped. It's terribly odd to hear a voice after weeks of listening only to birds and raccoons. And what is more, to hear the voice ask a question like that. I live here, I said. You mean Delhi? Fine, you can walk me home. Nothing I added did any good. She would not be shaken from her belief that I lived in Delhi, so I let it go. Must have reaped every last strawberry before she stood up, put her arm in mine, and escorted me down the mountain. I certainly was not escorting her. Her wiry little arms were like crawfish pinchers. And remember, crawfish are those like little mini lobsters that have pinchers? I couldn't have gotten away if I had tried, so I walked and listened. She told me all the local and world news. It was rather pleasant to hear about the National League, an atom bomb test, and Mr. Riley's three-legged dog that chased her chickens. In the middle of all this chatter, she said, That's the best strawberry patch in the entire Catskill Range. I come up here every spring. For 40 years, I've come to that meadow for my strawberries. It gets harder every year, but there's no jam that can beat the jam from that mountain. I know, I've been around here all my life. Then she went right up into the New York Yanks without putting in a period. And the New York Yanks means the New York Yankees, the baseball team. She's talking to Sam about baseball and different news and stuff. As I helped her cross the stream on big boulders, I heard a cry in the sky. I looked up. Swinging down the valley on long pointed wings was a large bird. I was struck by the ease and swiftness of its flight. Duck hawk, she said. Nest around here every year. My man used to shoot them. He said they killed chickens, but I don't believe it. The only thing that kills chickens is Mr. Riley's three-legged dog. She tipped and teetered as she crossed the rocks, but kept right on talking and stepping as if she knew that no matter what, she would get across. We finally reached the road. I was listening to her very much. I was thinking about the duck hawk. This bird, I was sure, was the Peregrine Falcon, the king's hunting bird. I will get one. I will train it to hunt for me, I said to myself. Finally, I got the little lady to her brown house at the edge of town. She turned fiercely upon me. I stared back. Where are you going, young man? I stopped. Now I thought she's going to march me into town. Into town? Well, that's where I'll go then, I said to myself, and I turned on my heel, smiled at her, and replied, to the library. Okay, and I put in a picture. This is a picture of Peregrine Falcon, and if you look, it's a really pretty type of falcon. It's called the Kingsburg. They'd use these birds for hunting small game, rabbits and ducks. You call it a duck hawk, and it's because they would use them for duck hunting. So the bird would go and kill the duck, and then the people would come and get it. But if you look, it's really pretty. That's why it's called a Kingsburg. All right, page 41, the next chapter, the King's Provider. Miss Turner, remember Miss Turner's the librarian. Miss Turner was glad to see me. I told her I wanted some books on hawks and falcons, and she located a few, although there was not much to be had on the subject. We worked all afternoon, and I learned enough. I departed when the library closed. Miss Turner whispered to me as I left, Sam, you need a haircut. I hadn't seen myself in so long that this had not occurred to me. Gee, I don't have any scissors. She thought a minute, got out her library scissors, and sat me down on the back steps. She did a fine job, and I looked like any other boy who had played hard all day and who, with a little soap and water after supper, would be going off to bed in a regular house. We all probably need a haircut now, too. We've been trapped inside, can't get a haircut. So the librarian's a nice lady. She's going to give Sam a nice haircut. I didn't get back to my tree that night. The May apples were ripe, and I stuffed on those as I went through the woods. They taste like a very sweet banana, and earthy and a little slippery, but I like them. And I looked this up too. So these are May apples, and I've never seen them, but I've kind of seen plants like this in the woods, but I don't know if we have these around here. But these little things are called May apples, these yellow fruits, and apparently they taste like bananas. At the stream, I caught a trout. Everybody thinks a trout is hard to catch because of all the fancy gear and flies and lines sold for trout fishing. But honestly, they are easier to catch than any other fish. They have big mouths and snatch and swallow whole anything they see when they are hungry. With my wooden hook in its mouth, the trout was mine. The trouble is that trouts are not hungry when most people have time to fish. I knew they were hungry that evening because the creek was swirling and minnows and everything else were jumping out of the water. When you see that, go fish. You'll get them. I made a fire on a flat boulder in the stream and cooked the trout. I did this so I could watch the sky. I wanted to see the falcon again. I also put the trout head on the hook and dropped it in the pool. A snapping turtle would view a trout head with relish, so he's trying to catch more turtles to eat. I waited for the falcon patiently. I did not have to go anywhere. After an hour or so, I was rewarded. A slender speck came from the valley and glided above the stream. It was still far away when it folded its wings and bombed the earth. I watched it. It rose clumsily and big, carrying food, and winged back to the valley. I sprinted down the stream and made myself a lean-to near some cliffs, where I thought the bird had disappeared. Having learned that day that duckhawks prefer to nest on cliffs, I settled for this site. Early the next morning, I got up and dug the tubers of the arrow leaf that grew along the stream bank. I baked these and boiled mussels for breakfast. Then I curled up behind a willow and watched the cliff. I put these in too. I've never heard these. These are arrow leaves, and I looked them up. We do have some of these varieties around here, but their tubers are their roots. So he's eating their roots again, and it's kind of like a potato. A potato's a tuber. So I guess their leaves look arrow shape, and then they have these little potato things attached to their roots. The falcon came in from behind me and circled the stream. They had apparently been out hunting before I got them up. As they were returning with food, this was exciting news. They were feeding young, and I was somewhere near the nest. And remember, he's excited about the young because he wants to catch one so he can train it to help him hunt. And this is actually a peregrine falcon, and these are its baby chicks and a nest in its cliff. So they build their nest in the cliff. They'll like dig out a hole and then they make a nest out of sticks. So then the nest is hard to get to. I watched one of them swing into the cliff and disappear. A few minutes later, it winged out empty-footed. I marked the spot mentally and said, "Ha!" After splashing across the stream in the shallows, I stood at the bottom of the cliff and wondered how on earth I was going to climb the sheer wall. I wanted a falcon so badly, however, that I dug in with my toes and hands and started up. The first part was easy. It was not too steep. When I thought I was stuck, I found a little ledge and shinned up to it. I was high, and when I looked down, the stream spun. I decided not to look down anymore. I edged up to another ledge and lay down on it to catch my breath. I was shaking from exertion, and I was tired. I looked up to see how much higher I had to go when my hand touched something moist. I pulled it back and saw that it was white bird droppings. Then I saw them, almost where my hand had been, sat three fuzzy whitish gray birds. Their wide open mouths gave them a startled look. And these are baby peregrine falcon birds. So he was climbing up. He put his hand in some poop. He looked up and he saw there was only three of them in the nest he saw, but three little birds just like that. "Oh, hello, hello," I said. "You are cute." Then I spoke. All three birds blinked at once. All three heads turned and followed my hand as I swung it up and towards them. All three watched my hand with open mouths. They were marvelous, I chuckled, but I couldn't reach them. I wormed forward and wham! Something hit my shoulder. It pained. I turned my head to see the big female. She had hit me. She winged out, banked, and started back for another strike. So this bird's attacking him while he's on the cliff trying to protect her babies. Now I was scared, for I was sure she would cut me wide open. With sudden nerve, I stood up, stepped forward, and picked up the biggest nestling. The females are bigger than the males. They are the falcons. They are the pride of kings. I tucked her in my sweater and leaned against the cliff, facing the bullet-like dive of the falcon. I threw out my foot as she struck, and the sole of my tennis shoe took the blow. The female was now gathering speed for another attack. And when I say speed, I mean 50 to 60 miles an hour. So that's how fast the car goes. I could see myself battered and torn, lying in the valley below, and I said to myself, Sam Gribley, you better get down from here like a rabbit. I jumped to the ledge below, found it was really quite wide, slid on the seat of my pants to the next ledge and stopped. The hawk apparently couldn't count. She did not know I had a youngster, for she checked her nest, saw the open mouths, and then she forgot me. I scrambled to the river bed somehow, being very careful not to hurt the hot, fuzzy body that was against my own. However frightful, as I called her right then and there because of the difficulties we had in getting together, did not think so gently of me. She dug her talons into my skin to brace herself during the bumpy ride to the ground. I stumbled to the stream, placed her in a nest of buttercups, and dropped beside her. I fell asleep. And here's a picture from the book of Sam with that baby chick, if it'll show up there. When I woke, my eyes opened on two gray eyes and a white strobely head. Small pin feathers were sticking out of the strobely down, like feathers in an Indian quiver. The big blue beak curled down in a snarl and up in a smile. Oh, Frightful, I said, you are a raving beauty. And so he named the bird Frightful because he was so scared. Frightful fluffed her nubby feathers and shook. I picked her up in the cup of my hand and held her under my chin. I stuck my nose in the deep, warm fuzz. It smelled dusty and sweet. I liked that bird. Oh, how I liked that bird from that smelly minute. It was so pleasant to feel the beating life and see the funny little awkward movements of a young thing. The legs pushed out between my fingers. I gathered them up together with the thrashing wings and tucked the bird in one piece under my chin. I rocked. Frightful, I said, you'll enjoy what we are going to do. I washed my bleeding shoulder in the creek, tucked the torn threads of my sweater back into the hole they had come out of, and set out for my tree. We're going to stop there for the day. So he got his falcon, his pet falcon from the nest. He got scratched up. That had been a scary experience, so he named his bird Frightful. So guys, again, thank you for watching. Please make sure you take the quiz. Please make sure you get all your work turned in by next Friday. And if anybody knows where this picture in the background is, I'll give you a thumbs up. It's one of my favorite hikes in the area, and I'm looking forward to getting out and getting hiking once we're allowed to go out again. And we'll see you guys next week.